What about all the little things? What about all the plans? What about them? What about what you should do? What about what you used to? What about it? Well, you know that there's gotta be something more, and you know that you're the one you've been waiting for. So let something new come through you. Oh, let something new come through. What about what the past says and about what your dad says? What about him? What about how we're so small, living in this great big world? We think we can change it all. Well, you know that there's so much you can do. Just by sitting alone in your living room, when you let something new come through you, when you let something new come through you, come through you, come through. Think about what you're taking in and about who you're blaming. Think about it. Think about not thinking at all. Let your mind fly free to where you never thought it could reach. Well, you know that there's so much you can do when you let go of all you ever thought was true, and you let something new come through you, when you let something new come through.
Welcome to our virtual Sunday celebration from the Hilltop Spiritual Center. I am Reverend Laura DiDonato, your practitioner of this beautiful day. Tap into your website, Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, where you'll find amazing musicians, prayer support, yoga, meditation, and inspiring wisdom from Reverend Dr. Guy, and now a heartfelt invocation. Let's take a deep breath in and a long breath out. I am now in the presence of pure being, of pure love, joy, and divine wisdom. We have unlimited choices and the free will to make them. From this pure substance of love, we can always guide our imagination, which manifests the highest good for all. Let us celebrate 2021 as the year to have fun, to be grateful for each and every moment. We celebrate every moment as a grateful, joyful, and mindful. And so it is. Namaste.
The reading today is from Ernest Holmes. I am guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imagination, which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the forces of nature in its grasp. I invite you to find a comfortable position with a tall back as your arms rest gently, and when you're ready, close your eyes. Bring full attention to this very moment, allowing your mind and body to be still. Bring awareness to your breath as it flows in deeply, and then breathe out slowly. Knowing imagination is the creation for manifestation. Now imagine your body in vibrant, perfect health, able to enjoy any activity you desire. Imagine your relationships growing closer and your heart expanding through forgiveness. Imagine your level of abundance and prosperity expanding to a new level of gratitude, which opens the door for unlimited potential. Now gently with your breath, bring yourself back through love, through this moment with joy and gratitude. Namaste.
Hello everyone, and welcome again to our virtual celebration. So this is the final talk that we are doing in this month on the path of imagination. And you know, I have been thinking all month of that quote from Colin Wilson where he says, "The imagination is the ability to grasp realities that are not immediately present." So just think about that for a second, what that means. That's really a remarkable thing, that we can create an image in our mind that is not founded on something that was in our past, that hasn't even been present yet, that we can pull in a quality of future that heretofore did not exist. That's a marvelous thing. It really is a divine attribute. If you think about it, it's a pretty remarkable ability that we have to create a future possibility without a past, not based on reason, not based on anything, but the capacity within us to call forth this image. You know, the metaphysical writer and great occultist Albert Pike says this in his book, Morals and Dogma. What a funny title for a name, right? Morals and Dogma, but it's actually a remarkable book. But he says this, and I'm paraphrasing here because he wrote it in the mid-19th century. He says, "All the forces at our disposal or under our control or subject to our influences are our working tools." It's something that we have that allows us to evolve. It's how we're able to see and navigate in and through the interior worlds. It helps us to create a better life for ourselves, our family, our tribe, and for the world itself. But you know, as the poet William Blake says, he says, "A fool sees not the same tree as a wise man sees." So it's really about not so much what we're seeing, but who's seeing. It's not so much what we're looking at as much as it is what we're looking with. And you know, these days, you know, there's been such a preponderance of fear. There's been such a preponderance of images that have been feeding to our confirmation biases about what we think is right, without really challenging us to stretch out beyond that what we're discovering is that we're not only filling our minds with thoughts and images that are useless, but they can actually be dangerous to our well-being and to those around us. We begin to see the world as dangerous, as divided or limited, or we begin to think that, that the best days are not before us, but behind us. We begin to question our own sense of self, our own capabilities, and we wonder if it's worth all the attention or energy that we're putting into things. You know, what happens here is this gives way to a form of cynicism. And cynicism has a withering effect upon our soul. Something that Rudolf Steiner says, when one who has a rich mental life sees 1,000 things which are nothing to the mentally poor, this shows as clearly as sunlight that the content of reality is only the reflection of the content of our minds, and that we receive from without only the empty form. But you know, it doesn't have to be that way, because I think it all comes down to this. The imagination is a reflection of our interior world. And that if we want to create imaginations that move us to the things that we desire, the things that we see that are important to us, if we want to make transformational change in our life through the power of our imagination, that it begins at the interior level. And you know, I think, let's face it, these have been challenging times, and I think that we're all at a crossroads. Because can you feel that even, this dark winter, with all the statistics that are truly frightening and sad, but there's a glimmer. It's like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though we are in the tunnel. And that as we are slowly making our way back in, this crossroads that we're standing with is, what is the life that we're wanting to make for ourselves? So think about this for a second. Can you imagine, now, in this moment, just briefly, can you imagine a world that works for you? What would that world look like? Who would be there? What would your experiences be? Where would you be? And can you think about your circle of friends, your family, your tribe, and create an imagination of something that's on the other side of where we are right now? Can you see yourselves doing something, experiencing something? For myself, what I do is I have these imaginations of these long tables that are candlelit and just filled with food. And there are these wonderful dinners that are sumptuous with plenty of wine and good company and drink, going way into the night with the rich, comforting, and inspiring art of a good conversation. And for those of you who have been at my table or I've sat at your table, oh, I miss that. And boy, I'm really looking forward. And that's an imagination that I am holding daily. And so let's think about this. Can we now create an imagination of a world that works for all? A world that is just, equitable, and sustainable for all life. Can you begin to imagine the earth healing itself, revitalizing itself, energizing itself, and all of us taking part in that? So I'd like to go back to that beautiful quote from Ernest Holmes that Reverend Laura read at the very beginning of our service. And sometimes Dr. Holmes' poetry is just amazingly beautiful. And he says, I am guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imaginations, which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the forces of nature in its grasp. This idea that there is a universal intelligence, a divine presence that is in and through and as all things. When St. Paul says, let the same mind be in you that was in Jesus the Christ, This is what he's talking about. That which brought all creation into being, that which orchestrates the movement of planets throughout the galaxies, the limbic system of our bodies, the force within a plant, all intelligence, all livingness, all vitality, all of that, the very thing that powered the Big Bang itself, is alive in each and every one of us. And that there is an energy that attracts and bonds and unites and heals and transforms. You know, Albert Pike, again, going back to him, who was, part of this great fraternal order, understood this, and they called this the law of attraction. And I don't mean the law of attraction that was sort of in the secret, that's part of it. But it's so much more nuanced. It's so much more transformative, and it evokes so much more from us. It's deeper. It's richer. It calls forth aspects of our being to participate in this. And oh, by the way, it works. One of the brothers in this fraternal order, a man by the name of Frank Kreatschier, gives sort of 7 guides that I'd like to share with you as how we develop and work with this law of attraction. And the first is this: know what you desire. Have a clear mental image of the thing or the experience that you're wanting, so that you can see it, and most important, you can feel it. That it's an image that creates an emotional response. And the emotional response is this great vibratory energy that radiates within us and connects to everything about us, that we literally become a magnet, drawing to and inviting the entire created universe to participate. When Teilhard says we are evolution become intentional, this is it. We become intentional by tapping into the thing that we desire and allowing ourselves to feel what it's like to experience the thing or the desire that we are holding. And the second thing is this: believe it'll happen. Because if you don't believe it'll happen, guess what? It won't. Because if we don't believe, then what happens is that we're actually putting up a defense against the very thing itself happening. This is why I think sometimes, people will just do affirmations till they're blue in the face and nothing seems to happen. It's because somewhere there in the back of their mind, even though they are saying this affirmation, they don't believe it. And this doesn't mean, going into magical thinking, that we're going to, win the lottery or something like that. Not that you can't, but it's not about going into fantasy. But here's the thing: do you believe that you can be healed? Do you believe that you can achieve financial freedom and independence? Do you believe that you can find meaningful work or a loving relationship or whatever the desire is? Do you believe that you can have it? Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was a pioneer in the early New Thought, used to say that our first affirmation is this: that there is good for me and it is mine for me to have. It's this thought that the very intelligence that brings the desire into our being brings also the ability for it to be realized. Do you believe that? And the third thing is this: is to visualize your desires. And that is to create mental images, mental pictures that we can see, that we can experience, that we can hold as an image. Again, when we go back to the work of Neville, that we hold the image in our mind in that hypnagogic state, so that it's actually programming our subjective mind to move to the image that we've planted in there. And then the fourth guide that he says is this, is to have an inner dialogue with yourself. This is where affirmations do come in, because they introduce new and powerful thoughts into our life. And so it's to change the conversation that we have. This whole month we've been talking about cultivating this relationship with the inner guide. And this is where the inner guide comes in, right? Because when we're asking, what is mine to do? Why did I come here? What's the meaning of my life? The real question is, who's asking those questions? And that's the one that we want to engage a whole new kind of conversation or dialogue with. Am I saying, that you're talking to yourself? Well, you already are. There's a running commentary going on in all of our heads all of the time. Often it's the inner critic. And what we want to do is we want to take the inner critic out of the driver's seat and let them find their appropriate place, but let the inner guide, the inner intelligence, that which is loving and wise and good and desires our well-being, that's the one we want driving the bus. And then the fifth guide is this, is to ask yourself better questions. What I mean by that is, maybe I know it's true for me, is, it's so easy that inner critic can ask terrible questions like, how could you be that stupid? Or why did you think that was a good idea? Or you actually think that you could achieve that? Those are the wrong questions. Energetically, we back away from them. Energetically, they wither us. But we want to ask more interesting questions like, in order for me to achieve this good, what are the skills that I need to learn? Or if the thing that I want seems far away, how do I get there? Do you see the difference? It's engaging our curiosity. It's engaging our mind. It's not making us wrong. It's not criticizing us, but it's simply asking the question, what do I need to learn? What skills do I need to have? What went wrong here, and how can I fix that? And then the sixth thing is this, is to let go. Another way of saying it is stop trying to control things. This is the whole story behind the Bhagavad Gita, is to engage, to set our desires. But once our desires are set in motion, is to handle them lightly, is to back off. Because if we keep trying to influence how it's supposed to be, then kind of what we're doing is we're giving a message to the universe that it has to be a certain way, often based on images that we hold from the past. And there's no novelty in that. If we trust the process, we can go on with our life and let it work itself the way it's going to. And finally, the seventh step in the guide is this, to always be grateful. To always be grateful. Because when we are in that state of gratitude, we are expansive, we are open, we are connected, we're unified with all that is. And so a good practice daily is the practice of gratitude in and all things. And when we engage using these 7 guides in a new level of our own sense of self-mastery, what we begin to discover is that our life is so much more powerful than we ever imagined it could be. But it's not just simply powerful for us. Something changes in us. When we realize that we are part of all creation, then what happens is we want to engage in all creation. Don Miguel Ruiz, in his book, The Mastery of Self, writes this. He says, "A moment of clarity without any action is just a thought that passes in the wind. But a moment of clarity followed by an action is a pivotal moment in our life. we change, and everything around us changes. We become an instrument of change, of peace, of healing, of prosperity, of joy, and the world benefits from that. You know, our imagination should inspire us to action and not cause us to retreat from the world. You know, again, going back to that definition from Colin Wilson of the imagination is the ability to grasp realities that aren't immediately present. Because when we begin to do that and engage this thing, something powerful, something wonderful, something exciting happens in our life. We begin to see ourselves and everyone around us differently. In many ways, it begins to allow us to experience life in this new way that we can see the handiwork of this divine intelligence in all things, through all things, and as all people. We can truly begin to see God in all creation. And then what happens is we respond differently. We respond through engagement, through amazement, through wonder, through awe, through gratefulness, that our response to the world is not one of fear, it's not one of defense, but it's undefended and loving and encouraging. And finally, what that does is it really brings out, you know, these great questions. Who am I? Why did I come here? And what is mine to do? We're to serve something greater than ourselves. We're to be part of something wonderful that is not just us alone, but us connected to all things. You know, Terry Cornelius at the beginning of the month, she said, "Are you guys going to do the song Imagine?" And funny us, we hadn't even thought about that. So I talked to our music director, Lee, and he's so excited to perform that for you later today in the celebration. But you know, what a beautiful song. It's really kind of the anthem of all of us cultural creatives. And so what I offer to you today is to listen to that song. Let those words be a blessing to yourself, and let those words be a blessing to the world. Imagining a world that's free from strife and discord and fear, but one where each of us is loved, seen, served, and celebrated as the unique and original expression of divinity, the image of God that we are. And so it is.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us on this sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions, a wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Thank you again for being part of our virtual community. And I want to take a moment, first of all, to give a shout out to those of you who are part of the Hilltop Spiritual Center. We're just so pleased that you are part of our community, part of this fellowship, this virtual community. And as we are rolling out this year, what I want you to know is that none of you are alone. And that if you reach out, one of our practitioners would love to connect with you and pray with you and visit with you. And there's ways that you can connect with them. And I invite you now, just in your imagination, just to see yourself so prosperous, so generous, so expansive. And then expand that imagination out to the Hilltop Center through your kindness and your generosity, that we are continuing to open and grow, and that we are part of the healing of the soul of our nation. And we are doing it by the healing, the expansion, and the amazement of what it means to be alive today. And so to you, my friends, and to those whom you love, and those whom you receive love from, I wish you many, many blessings.